What is up, gamers? Riftbound has finally released, and it's really expensive. This isn't very shocking because of allocation issues with the first set so far, and with the sheer volume of cards being over 300 different types of cards, not counting alternate arts and showcases, you're only going to be seeing about one of each epic within a case. And the epics are really important for a lot of decks, having seals, signature spells, signature champions, and just really strong powerhouse cards. So because of this, I'll be going over a $50 budget deck built around Ahri.
A clever fox is never caught.
Ahri's primary goal is to take over a battlefield very early on and then hold that battlefield for the rest of the game. It is in Common Mind and has the ability that whenever an enemy unit attacks a battlefield you control, it gets -1 might this turn and can't go below 1 might. This ability can be really annoying to deal with for decks that like to naturally swarm and pump up their units a lot. It also makes it easier to stat check the opponent and be able to hold your battlefields a lot easier. Our champion we are using is Ahri Alluring, which is a 5 energy, 1 power, 4 might champion that says, when I hold, you score 1 point. This is our way to accelerate our game plan into a win, because every time we hold with this Ahri, we essentially get 2 points. And between this and holding, you can win just by holding at 6 points. The Legend and Champion combo is a great combination to be able to hold battlefields and then be able to accelerate to a win after that. For this deck, we are building it around another champion though, which is Sona Harmonious. Whenever it's at a battlefield, you can ready 4 runes at the end of your turn. This gives the deck a lot of flexibility on being able to be aggressive early on, and then you are able to drop the Sona on a battlefield instantly later. And then every time you end the turn with Sona, then you get more runes that you can utilize to interact with the opponent, giving you a lot more rune usage throughout each and every turn compared to the opponent. You may not use all 4 runes during your opponent's turn, but having those 4 runes make your opponent think twice before trying to conquer your battlefield. So now because we have Sona and Ahri, we do want to protect, and we also want to be able to conquer battlefields early, so then we can immediately play them onto the battlefields later on. We have a lot of different 2 and 3 drops within the deck to help this strategy. We have cards like Lecturing Yordle and Sunlit Guardian, which both have tank, making the opponent have to damage them first before anything else on that battlefield. While the Sunlit Guardian has 4 might, making it harder to get rid of, the Lecturing Yordle does draw you a card when you play it. And then we have quite a lot of 2 drops for whenever we go first, like Stalwart Poro, which is a 3 might unit while it's defending. Ravenbloom Student, which gets +1 might every time you cast a spell, which in tandem with Sona and all of the fast speed spells we are playing in this deck can get very big defensively pretty easily. And then we also have Watchful Sentry, which is just a 1-drop that on death draws a card, allowing us to dig deeper into our deck to find more defensive pieces. Now for our defensive spells, we have quite a lot. We have 3 Stupefies, which lowers the might by 1 and draws a card, and making it a really good cantrip to be able to defend our battlefields easier. We also have On Guard, which gives +1 might to a unit for the turn, but also gives an additional might if it's the only unit you control there. And we have Discipline as a way to give +2 might and draw a card. All of these are good reaction speed spells that manipulate the might of the battle, with a lot of them being able to replace themselves instantly, while also being able to punish the opponent for trying to contest your battlefield. And then if the opponent has any other reactions to your reaction cards, you also have access to Defy, which allows you to counter spells like Hextech Ray and Void Seeker, or even Super Mega Death Rocket, and making sure these spells aren't able to remove your units on the board. And if all else fails, if we still aren't able to protect our units, we do have some ways to still keep them around but still lose the battlefield. We are playing 2 Retreat, which bounces a friendly unit to its owner's hand, and you channel 1 rune Exhausted. So for the cost of bouncing your unit back, you are able to ramp faster. We're also playing 1 Zonia's Hourglass, which is a hidden gear that says the next time a friendly unit would die, kill this instead, but call that unit Exhausted. Meaning if the opponent utilizes a card that is able to kill our Sona or Ahri, and we're not able to defy it, we can still use Zonia's Hourglass as a way to keep it around and be able to utilize it for the next turn. Now because we're utilizing all of these runes throughout each and every turn, and having extra runes because of Sona, we are also playing 2 Consult the Past, which lets us draw 2 cards. Meaning if the opponent doesn't end up wanting to contest that hard into us, we are able to use Consult the Past in order to draw cards, and it is exactly 4 runes that Sona readies during the opponent's turn. And now in those scenarios where the opponent is able to take over the battlefield we were controlling, we are playing Sprite Mother as well, which plays a 3 might sprite unit with temporary, allowing it to be a fast way to get 3 might on the board to contest the new battlefield. And then to go along with Sprite Mother, we also have Charm, which is a 1-cost spell that says move an enemy unit. There is so much flexibility with this card because you're able to either move units off a battlefield or potentially utilize it as a removal spell by forcing an opponent's unit onto your battlefield and then forcing a fight. And because they are considered the attackers, Ahri does minus their might. Charm has so much flexibility and a lot of really unique ways to be used when combined with Ahri as well. And then our last card is Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank is a 5-cost 5 might champion that says whenever you play it to a battlefield, you can move an enemy unit here. This means that if you play Blitzcrank to a battlefield, then like Charm, you can force a showdown by forcing the opponent's unit to move there, while also having Ahri's effect of minusing the might as well. Blitzcrank does have tank, so this doesn't put your Sonas or Ahri's in any danger because Blitzcrank will take the brunt of the attack first. So between Blitzcrank and Charm, you have 5 different pieces of removal within the deck. And if they're unable to get rid of Blitzcrank that turn or on their next turn, then whenever it comes back to your turn and you hold, Blitzcrank does come back to your hand, so you could do that play all over again. That is all for the main deck. For our battlefields, we're playing Grove of the Godwillow, giving us more card advantage every time we hold. The Dreaming Tree, which draws a card the first time you target a friendly unit with a spell, which we have a lot of different effects like On Guard, Retreat, and Discipline able to do this. And then the last battlefield is pretty open-ended on what you could play here. I'd put in Fortified Position, because one of the big things this deck can struggle with is fighting against a deck that slams down big units. And Fortified Position makes it easier to defend your battlefields against cards like that, and also works very well when combined with Charm or Blitzcrank, forcing the opponent's units onto that battlefield. And then for the runes, it is 9 Calm and 3 Mind. The only card that actually uses Mind runes for its power cost is Sprite Mother. So you could technically get away with 2 or maybe even 1 Mind, but we don't really have that many power costs within this deck. So we should never really run out of Calm runes anyway at just 9. So if you're looking to upgrade this deck after this, there are a few different options. There is Thousand-Tailed Watcher, which ends up being a late game finisher for the deck, and being able to very easily take back battlefields compared to before. If you were to choose any card to try to upgrade this with, it is Thousand-Tailed Watcher 100% of the time. That should be the first card you look to get. After that, you have a couple different options. You have the Blue Ahri, which is essentially another version of your Legend Ahri, and also comes out quicker compared to the Green Ahri that we're currently playing because it's 3 energy compared to 5. That is something you could try. Either Ahri Champion honestly works pretty well, and there are some builds that do play both within the deck. For this deck, you don't really need seals either. Even with potential upgrades, most of your cards are so cheap anyway that you don't really care about losing out on some runes, especially when you go for a Thousand-Tailed Watcher play. And you want a lot of your cards to be able to do something during the opponent's turn as well, which seals don't really draw you cards. They just help pay for costs that we don't really have in the first place. Next, let's talk about Time Warp. Time Warp is a very strong card in here and becomes an active win condition in almost any type of blue deck. Now, the cost on Time Warp is very hefty, but the big thing about it is usually when you cast it, you should win the game. Because of how hard it is to take control of both battlefields within a turn, the easiest way to brute force through there is either through Thousand-Tailed Watcher, making all of the opponent's units super weak, or utilizing Time Warp and then having a hold to win that last point. Time Warp also becomes a lot better in here if you ended up having your Ahri champion in play, then you can skyrocket in points very quickly through that. You honestly don't need more than 2 Time Warps, if 1 even, but this is a card you should heavily consider looking at when looking to complete a final build for this. And then lastly, I want to talk about Unchecked Power as a potential side deck option within this deck. You would almost never main deck it, but you would side deck it for specifically the Dazzling Aurora matchup, because if Dazzling Aurora starts getting going too quickly, then it becomes really hard for this deck to be able to push back against it. And unchecked power is a decent way to be able to fight against that easier. And that's it for this Ahri deck. If you have the means, I would recommend trying to pick up all the commons and uncommons for these colors, because Ahri could honestly play a lot of them, and you can have a lot of fun playtesting and testing these types of decks out. So yeah, hope you found this helpful. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. I'll see you guys in the next one.